Hey, I'm Jay Taylor. I'm the editor of a newsletter called Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks, host a radio show called Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm here at the Metals Investor Forum to talk to Tom MacNeill. He is the president and CEO of Omineca Mining and Metals. It's a company I started following about a year ago or so in my newsletter. It's one I find very exciting. Near-term cash flow prospects from a placer mine, a very high-grade underground placer mine, and Tom will tell you about that. But longer term, next door to the Caribou gold deposit, Caribou mine, they are looking at a hard rock prospect. That actually looks very much like the Caribou project, which is a multi-million ounce project. So Tom, thanks for joining me today. It's really a pleasure meeting up with you again.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Jay.
So you have a market cap about $45 million, last I checked. A lot of insider shareholders, I think you said something like 45% or so of the stock is closely held. So it's a fairly tight structure, which is always a good thing to see. But let's get into your projects. You have this underground placer project that's incredibly rich, the way it seems, based on a bulk sample you did. Talk about that, and then your longer term prospects in terms of what you hope to achieve with your Wingdam project that's located along the Barkerville Highway in BC.
Okay, sure, Jay. Thank you very much. We're about 25 kilometers to the west of Osisko Development's Caribou Gold Project, and this is the underground placer is a historical project. It's been known about for over 100 years. It had quite a bit of drilling done historically, starting at the turn of the last century, so in the early 1900s. But it's a slightly technically challenging one in that it's a very rich placer that exists 50 meters underneath Lightning Creek. So as you can imagine, the steep river canyon valley is charged with water, and it does make for an interesting mining environment. And historical attempts starting in the late 20s into the 1930s to mine it just didn't have the technology that we have to go in there and liberate gold. So it's been known about. We've internally relied on historical drilling that was done on it. It got our interest. We said, wow, that's very rich. And when Omineca was a private company in 2012, we went in and did a bulk sample. So that's why you've got such large insider participation, as we internally funded all of the work to do a small bulk sample, rehabilitate the workings of the mine, and go in and do that. Now, I should clarify here, it's actually a continuation of mining. There was, for a 10-year period in the 1930s, upstream of us, a very successful mine, the Sanderson mine, that ran up until World War II broke out, in fact. So what we've got is a situation, we knew there was a lot of gold under Lightning Creek. It's technically challenging to get because it's in a clay-rich, what they call slum, and existing mining technology back in the day couldn't overcome that. They would go in and start mining it, be very thrilled with the rich grades that they would recover, and before you knew it, the walls were oozing like toothpaste, and there would be water up to your ankles, and you're leaving the mine and going, what do we do next? So in 2012, we went in and used freeze technology to simply freeze a halo above the pay zone of interest and excavate underneath it. And it worked swimmingly. We're very familiar with that in Saskatchewan. As you're probably aware, freeze mining was pioneered in Saskatchewan for potash development. It's used extensively in the uranium mining industry, and we've used it. Our working group has used it in doing 235-meter deep shaft sinking in Saskatchewan for diamond exploration. So we simply took something that we're familiar with out to the Caribou and said, let's try it here. Worked swimmingly. And I should add, it's very simple. It's hockey rink technology. You drill a hole, you put a pipe with a return feature into it, brine solution runs through it that chills the surrounding rock. The moisture in the rock freezes, and voila, you've got concrete-like rock, and you can mine that safely. So nothing particularly complicated, but something that certainly didn't exist back in the day when this deposit was first discovered. So we bulk sampled it, and we had a tremendous result in 2012. We did an 80-foot long crosscut, so about 24 meters long, 8 foot wide by 8 foot high, and we got 173 ounces of gold out of that, which is by far one of, if not the richest underground placer gold recoveries ever in BC history. And the potential for this thing, going in both directions up and down the Lightning Creek Valley, we've got 15 kilometers of potential paleo channel. Based on historical drilling, we've got a pretty high level of confidence that there's at least 2.5 kilometers of the bears gold, based on, again, on historical drilling from the last century and some work that we did. So we're ready to go underground, and we've got a partner that's coming to do that with us. They're active now. It was an important moment for us in December when we announced that we had started the pumps up to start dewatering the underground workings. Our partners are going to go in and do all that. and basically keep half the gold for doing it. We've got a wonderful relationship with our partners out of Saskatchewan here. They're going to mine with us. They're going to keep half the gold. They're going to bill us 850 Canadian per ounce on the half they give us, and essentially move the project forward without us having to do much of anything. Right. The key to this story though, Jay, and it's a bit of a long-winded one, is that when we did that bulk sample in 2012, we pulled out what is known as autochthonous gold, or gold that is found adjacent to where it broke off the lode source. And that really got our attention, and that's why we put this into a public company, is because we realized we may have an analog to what's going on at the Barkerville camp, which we were involved in from the early days 25 years ago in funding the early exploration there. And we believe we do. We've got Steve Kosis, our lead geologist, in analyzing the gold, the character of the gold that we got out of that bulk sample, suggested that all of it came from less than 1 kilometer away when you look at the gold grain morphology. And some of it came from as close as 50 to 100 meters away from where it broke off the lode source. So we have one of the most exciting stages, an inside out exploration program. We've got an incredibly high grade underground placer, and then we're going to move out from there over our 50,000 hectare property, which is over 500 square kilometers. And this is where it gets really interesting. The Wingdam is right in the middle of a trend that looks a lot like the parallel trends in the Barkerville camp. Mm-hmm. To the north of us, we've got the Toop mine, which was a placer mine with very coarse gold in it. So there's probably a lode source right next to it. And directly on trend, as you go to the south, about another 15 kilometers to the south, we've seen mineralization on the bottom end of our property. And it lines up perfectly in the same character of a parallel repeating trend that they've proven next door at the Barkerville camp exists. So wide open for us. We're starting the hard rock exploration, so we're very close to liberating gold from the placer project with our partners, and we're in the middle of the first drilling campaign for hard rock. Where did all of that gold come from?
Wonderful. And so you're hoping to get some cash flow, I guess, from the placer mining to help finance the hard rock exploration program. Could you take a few seconds to talk about the program this year, if to the extent you haven't figured out yet how you're going to?
Yes, thank you. One of our initial, the initial program is 27 holes, of which we've drilled 13. Now we're waiting for assay results because the entire Western Canadian scene is backed up. So we don't have anything to talk about yet. But we're halfway through a 27-hole program. We financed in the fall time $5.5 million. That gives us 2 more years of exploration budget by our accounting for how much we want to spend. And at the same time, we hope to be feathering in potential cash flow from the Wingdam underground placer operations. So 2 tracks, potential near-term cash flow, and also we're in the initial stages of looking for that source. Those are both wonderful catalysts for Omineca investors. Any kind of success in either one of those 2 tracks should really act as a propellant to our float. So.
Any sense of when you might start getting some of those assays back?
Soon, very soon. We're in the queue at ALS behind Barkerville, or excuse me, behind Osisko Development. They're drilling 180,000 meters between now and the end of next summer. It's extraordinary. They've got 10 drill rigs. We're very much aware that ALS is not going to let us jump the queue. We're the little guy. We're happy to wait because we learn from what they're doing down the block. We expect any time. We've been careful not to make any promises, but we just don't know because
mm-hmm.
Don't know.
All right. Well, we'll certainly be watching for that. And so I guess that's certainly one of the things shareholders should be keeping their eyes on that. And I imagine then after you get those assay results, that will have something to do with how you tailor your drill program going forward later into 2021.
Yeah, that's a really good question. We stopped drilling before Christmas after we completed the 13 holes. We're in the process of acquiring some more airborne geophysical data. We're doing a triaxial mag survey that we'll be talking about the completion of soon. We want a much bigger understanding of what we've drilled so far, how that correlates to the geophysics. At the same time, we've got a commitment to fulfill 15 kilometers to the west of us on our Mouse Mountain joint venture with Canalaska. We're going to go drill that copper gold alkalic copper gold porphyry because we're interested in the gold content, but also it's historically had intercepts as high as recovered copper of 5%. So we'll do that in the break while we're collating information from the drilling we've done and the geophysics we're acquiring. As I said, we're planning on the next couple of years of drilling, expanding our footprint and looking at, okay, we've got a whole trend here. We need to get busy. We need to get boots on the ground. We're going to be anxiously awaiting the snowpack coming off those hillsides so we can get our geologists out in the field.
Well, you certainly have a lot of things going for you, Tom, and for Omineca Mining and Metals, people should keep their eyes on your story. I think it's very much worthwhile. That's why it's in my newsletter. That's why I own the stock. And I wish you all the best, and I look forward to keeping up with you going forward and through 2021. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.